Welcome to a new planetary and seismic update. On the SGI graph we see from the previous time frame, the 5th to the 14th, the peaks that I labeled, and if you look at the seismic activity that we had, we see the typical clustering of stronger earthquakes following every peak. The 5.5 and larger earthquakes and it peaked 6.5 here on the 13th, 14th. This was the most critical time from the 12th approximately to the 14th, 15th. And we see the 6.2 at Coquimbo, Chile and the 6.5 within a little bit over 24 hours. Quite a seismic increase there, above average. And this temporal clustering, that is evidence of seismic modulation, and we see the relationship with every peak here on the SGI graph. Quite some activity. The 6.5 is the strongest arguably since the 2nd of January when 6.5 occurred in Mexico. Some agencies revised this to a 6.4, but it was a strong earthquake. Here we see the earthquake in Vanuatu. The Vanuatu region and the Loyalty Islands, they have frequently seismic activity, stronger earthquakes, 6.5, mid-6 or even magnitude 7 earthquakes. Also look at the Solomon Islands and the Santa Cruz Islands. This region has been relatively quiet in the last several years basically. Okay, let's have a look at the next time frame from the 14th to the 23rd. We're going to have quite some convergence coming up, groups of convergence from the 16th as today up until the 20th. And we see the lunar peak with Jupiter and with Venus here on the 14th, and that was followed by some stronger earthquakes. The 6.5 at Vanuatu that I already discussed, and here the 6-pointer yesterday. This could have been considerably larger following the lunar peak with Jupiter here on the 14th. So the upcoming time frame, we see a convergence here right on the 16th, that's today, with planetary alignment Sun, Mercury, Uranus, converging with lunar geometry with Mars, Neptune and Saturn. If we look at the solar system, we see the planetary alignment here, Sun, Mercury, Uranus, converging with lunar geometry 45 degrees, semi-right angle geometry with Saturn and with Neptune. Earth is about to line up with those outer planets, and also lunar conjunction with Mars. There's probably going to be increased seismic activity following this convergence of planetary and lunar geometry. Then tomorrow we have a new moon, also converging with lunar geometry with Uranus and with Jupiter, semi-right angle geometry 135 with Jupiter and 90 degrees with Uranus. The Earth, Moon, Sun, that's a new moon, that also happens to be an annular solar eclipse, one of two this year. It is mostly going to be visible from Antarctica, a little bit here South Africa, but there's probably not going to be much, and the tip here of South America. But it will be mostly visible here from Antarctica. Eclipses do not necessarily increase seismic activity. We see these articles in mainstream media like there's going to be an eclipse, so there's going to be a big earthquake. No, it doesn't work like that. There has to be a convergence of planetary and lunar geometry. The lunar geometry on its own, like a single eclipse or a single full moon or a single new moon, does not necessarily cause increased seismic activity. It's the convergence that does the seismic increase. So we have this convergence here, but more critical I think is the convergence here on the 16th. We have some converging lunar geometry here on the 17th with the eclipse, but then we look at the later on the 17th the horizontal red line and the horizontal blue line. That marks the planetary alignment EARTH-SATURN-NEPTUNE until the 23rd. The planets do not move very fast, so we're going to have this alignment practically several days with a tolerance of 0.23 degrees. That's really tight, and it still shows quite a long alignment here from the 17th to the 23rd. And it's going to converge with a critical planetary and lunar geometry. On the 18th, Mercury, Venus, Uranus at a right angle. That is always part of a pair, and it pairs with Venus, Mercury, Uranus also at a right angle on the 20th, and that's going to be really critical. On the 18th, like I said, Mercury, Venus, Uranus at a right angle converges with a lunar conjunction with Mercury, Venus. We're probably going to see some seismic increase there as a result. Well, then look at the 20th when the moon aligns with Saturn and Neptune just before Earth also aligns with Saturn and Neptune. That is an interesting and important synchronicity synchronicity between Earth's alignment with Saturn and Neptune and the Moon aligning with Saturn and Neptune in a conjunction almost at the same time. If we look at the timing of Saturn and Neptune, we look at the solar system here, we see at 2048 UTC and 2055 there are only several minutes between the alignments of the Moon with Saturn and with Neptune. Really critical is Venus, Mercury, Uranus at a right angle just a little bit before the lunar geometry. That is at 1900 hours. So it's a really tight convergence. Venus here at the right angle, Mercury and Uranus. And this is going to be really critical. We see Earth practically already in alignment with Saturn and Neptune as well. And that will be exact a day later on the 20th. And that will also converge with Uranus at 45 degrees and Jupiter at 90 degrees. This is the geometry that we're going to have from the 16th to the 20th, basically. And the convergence on the 19th, 20th, that is going to be most critical. And as we could see a larger earthquake, especially because of the Venus-Mercury-Uranus right angle converging with the lunar geometry. It's right in the middle there. And there is the potential for a mid-7 magnitude earthquake around the 21st, give or take 1 day. That's my current estimate here. Don't underestimate this right angle geometry here, first with Mercury, Venus, Uranus, and then Venus, Mercury, Uranus. This is the most critical one. We could see a large earthquake around the 21st as a result. This is going to be critical. EARTH-SATURN-NEPTUNE is not necessarily critical. It happens roughly every 36 years. It's unique geometry, but the convergence with Venus, Mercury, Uranus, that makes it really critical. A really unique planetary and lunar geometry converging there. A little bit further here on the 23rd, we see Sun, Venus, Neptune in an alignment converging with Mars, Uranus lunar geometry, and that will be the start of multiple planetary alignments, because Venus is also going to align up with Saturn on the 24th, and there will be more planetary alignments also with Mercury. So that will also be pretty critical, I guess. And I will cover that in one of the next updates in much more detail. But first we're going to focus on the planetary and lunar geometry from the 16th until the 20th. It's going to be really critical. I expect increased seismic activity above average, the typical 5.5 and larger earthquakes. There could be multiple 6s coming up here in these days. Maybe 1, maybe even 2 magnitude 7 earthquakes in this time frame. It really depends on the stress levels in Earth's crust. We don't know that. So be on extra alert. There can be larger seismic activity from approximately the 16th, maybe later today already, 16th, 17th, up until the 20th, and possibly a larger earthquake around the 21st. Check out the latest updates on the website and also in the social media. Stay safe, everyone, and until next time.